What's up guys, welcome back to the LeftLane MMA channel, and in today's video we are going to be going over the mythical fighters of the UFC. It's a well-known topic in the UFC, you know, the mythical fighters, the ones that stand out in certain circumstances, the ones that perform best under certain pressures or in a certain environment, and those are the guys we're going to be going over in today's video. The fighters that when they're not their base form, they elevate themselves, you know, to a higher power, to a higher being, to become more than just a normal UFC fighter. So, we're going to get into it, and we're going to be running through 20 mythical fighters of the UFC. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. I've got another 20 mythical fighters to be going over in a future video, but for now, we're going through 20. So, just before we start off, what is a mythical fighter? I've got down here, a mythical fighter is an individual that transcends their base form under certain circumstances. This could be one fight or a change that a fighter made that resulted in a much higher rate of success. This could even be just a one-off performance as well. These fighters are either undefeated in their mythical form or have notable increase in success for it to be considered mythical. I'm also going to be chucking in a few ones where the fighters are claiming, or there is claim of mythical status, but we really just haven't seen the proof needed to have these athletes, you know, in their mythical format. So, we're going to start off here with the first mythical fighter, and it's Yoel Romero, 3rd round Romero to be exact. This guy is an absolute menace. If you didn't know, 15 career wins from Yoel Romero, 9 of them in the first round. He just melts fools. He chinned Weidman, chinned Rockhold, chinned Machida, finished Brunson, and then 2 wins against Bellator tick of a ting, yeah? That's the kind of stuff that Yoel Romero's got going on in the 3rd round. Absolutely dominating individuals, crazy stuff. Basically would just toy with you for 2 rounds and then just say, alright, I'm going to finish you now. And he just would just cook you. You couldn't survive. It was just an absolute explosiveness, power, and you basically died if he chose you to. So yeah, Yoel Romero, mythical fighter. I'm giving him a rating of 9 out of 10 mythical because we have seen him lose fights. He hasn't finished all of his fights in the 3rd round. He's never been finished, of course, in the 3rd round in the UFC or in MMA, I believe. But Yoel Romero, 3rd round Romero, very mythical fighter. We move on to the next one. It's Knocked Down / Blonde Oliveira. This is a mythical fighter that's been around for a few years now, actually. The base form, obviously, Blonde Oliveira beat the likes of Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, and Beneil Dariush. Impressive fashion, great wins there from Blonde Oliveira, but his true form came when he was knocked down, and that was his ultimate power-up. Wins over Chandler, Gaethje, and Poirier revealed the mythical level of Blonde and knocked down Charles Oliveira. Of course, unfortunately, he was knocked down and finished by Islam Makhachev. I think that personally was a fixed fight. I don't think that was a real result. I think it was government CGI. But apart from that, every fight which has been knocked down in the last few years since he's been blonde, or since he's been blonde, he's only lost once. So, unfortunately, because of the fact that he has lost when he's been knocked down, and Blonde Oliveira has also lost, he can't be a top tier mythical fighter, but I'll give him a rating of 8 out of 10 mythical. Could be a little bit higher, but that's what I'm going to go with. We move on to another fighter, and it's Sober Costa. So this is one where more of a meme of a mythical fighter and less proof that it actually exists. We all know the backstory, obviously. Paulo Costa fought Israel Adesanya at UFC 253 and he got absolutely embarrassed and finished in the 2nd round by TKO. And then he proceeded to get doggy style, you know, a bit of whammy action up the bum from Israel Adesanya. So, embarrassing performance from Paulo Costa, but you'd think he had a lot of shit talk in the build-up, but you'd think after a performance like that, there's nothing you can say. But no, he comes out, he says he drank a glass of wine the night of the fight. So I drank a glass of wine the night of the fight. He basically claimed he was drunk when fighting Adesanya. He sure fucking looked like it, I'll tell you that much. He also lost his next fight to Vettori, so he must have been drunk there too. So, pretty poor excuse from Paulo Costa. Not a valid mythical fighter. His only win this decade is against Luke Rockhold. So, 4 out of 10 for mythical rating for Costa. Terrible. Not a mythical fighter. We move on to another mythical fighter, and it's featherweight / motivated McGregor. This is one of the, not original, but a predating mythical fighter that's been around for a pretty long time and has now passed the mythical status that we once saw. Skeletor McGregor was undefeated. I'm telling you, McGregor that dehydrated himself to an absolute fucking burns victim of a ting. Like some guy looking like he's straight out the Sahara Desert on a fucking National Geographic documentary of the sub-Saharan Africa. That's what Conor looked like cutting to featherweight. And but that's how he did his best work, you know. Didn't even need an ACL. He beat Max Holloway. He even fought Chad Mendes injured, I'm pretty sure. Chinned Aldo in 13 seconds. You know, this motivated McGregor. This was the karate stance days. This was the OG Conor that we remember. He's as good of a counter striker as there's ever been when he was in the featherweight division. Actually had good cardio. The trash talk even was elite, you know. Mystic Mac. I predict these things, you know. Don't fucking play with me, yeah. Like, Mystic Mac was a thing that was always exciting. The rise of Conor was just super exciting. You know, beat Marcus Brimage, beat Diego Brandao. I don't know the order. Beat Dennis Sieve, you know. A midget German steroid head. You know, he was just beating guys. Beat Poirier, P-head, beat Holloway, of course. I've got that order wrong. You know what I'm saying. And then, obviously, got that shot against Mendes, chinned him. It will be done in one, and then beat Aldo as well to win the featherweight title. And I'm going to count the Alvarez fight, fuck it. Obviously, he did lose Diaz, but that was a 170. 170 is like the least mythical version of Conor McGregor ever. So yeah, Mystic Mac, I'll give him a mythic rating of 10 out of 10, because when he was in this state, he never lost. This is one of the ones where you just can't say there was a flaw to... There was no flaw to Mystic Mac. There was no flaw to Skeletor McGregor, you know. Now he has a titanium shin bone running from the knee to the ankle, and it's unbreakable. So maybe we're going to see a new mythical fighter in titanium shin bone McGregor, coked Conor. He's going to be the new mythical fighter that emerges. But we move on to another mythical fighter, and it's Poatan doing things that Izzy couldn't. This is a recent mythical fighter, and one that we've been blessed with the presence of. Alex Pereira, the Brazilian Chad himself, the stone-faced killer. He thrives in scenarios doing what Adesanya can't. Example, beating Sean Strickland. He KO'd him in the first round. Adesanya got dominated by him. Beating Blachowicz. He won a split decision. Israel lost 49-46. Winning successfully at light heavyweight. Again, Adesanya lost that too. Winning a second belt. He did that as well. Being a likable person, you know, Adesanya struggles with that, you know, with his dog fiddling addiction. Also, Pereira, being genuine, not touching animals weirdly. Like, it's crazy how you can just be such a good guy when you don't do the most creepy, odd things that a person could think of. So, yeah, Izzy, bit of a yikes for him, but Poatan specializes in doing things that Adesanya cannot do, and he will continue to exist solely to spite Israel Adesanya's existence, and I'm here for it. So, Pereira doing things that Adesanya couldn't. I'll give him a mythic rating of 7 1 out of 10. Or 7 to 1 out of 10, because that's the scoreboard of him and Adesanya right now, you know. We've got, he beat him 3 times in kickboxing, that's 3-0. He beat Strickland, Adesanya didn't, that's 4-0. He beat Blachowicz, Izzy didn't, that's 5-0. He won at light heavyweight, Izzy didn't, that's 6-0. And then he won a second belt, Izzy didn't, that's 7-0. Or 7-1, sorry. And then if you count him training Strickland too, 8-1. So yeah, fuck out of here, Izzy. Go touch your dogs. Actually, don't do that. Can we get RSPCA? So can we get whatever that thing is, the pet saving organization, PETA or whatever? Can we get them to go rescue Izzy's dogs, please? That would be appreciated. Someone in the comments, guys, call up PETA and get them to sort Izzy's dogs out, because those things are endangered species. We move on to the next mythical fighter, and it's Anthony Smith on paper. A truly terrifying force that we are yet to see unleashed in the octagon. Of course, you guys know, Anthony Smith is better than everyone on paper. Not a single guy on the planet beats this guy on paper, on an A4 sheet of paper. On paper, Jones isn't that good, according to Mr. Smith, and he's clearly an educated man. He's a smart individual, he's an intellect, and he knows what he's talking about. On paper, he's the champion if he takes that DQ against Jones. He could have done that. He could have been a bitch like Aljo, but he didn't. So on paper, he should have done that. You know, on paper, he hits harder than Pereira. Because on paper, Pereira is the pretty average guy, you know. Unfortunately, we are yet to be graced with the mythical form of Anthony Smith on paper. He's yet to come out with an incredible performance and really show us his true form. I'm pretty sure this whole time it hasn't been Anthony Smith fighting. It's been his imposter, Bogdan Guskov. This guy pictured down the bottom of the screen here. Look at him. That's clearly a rip-off Anthony Smith that's been fighting this whole time. And Anthony Smith's going to appear in his next fight and he's going to go on a 10-fight run and become the GOAT of the sport. That's going to happen on paper. And on paper, his family is also being attacked. So mythical rating for Anthony Smith, I'll give him an A4 piece of paper out of 10. We move on. Not up the card, I'm not doing predictions. We move on to the next mythical fighter. It's Bald Volk, in brackets, at featherweight. It would have been Bald Volk, but recently, he's taken a few losses, which is tough. But Bald Volk, he entered the world at UFC 266, where he executed Brian Ortega, a former Mexican. Then in that fight, he became unsubmittable, That slippery, nice, smooth, bald head is hard to submit. He then proceeded to kill Zombie. Then he 50-45'd Holloway in the trilogy, We found out Saturday night, as Holloway would say. Then he went up and almost beat Islam. I was there in person, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that. I actually went to that event. I was the one that caused that result, I actually shined a laser into the eyes of Makhachev walking out. That's why. And I also trained Volk in grappling. He'll tell you that, by the way. But also, he then sent Yair back across the border, when he went back down to featherweight, he sent Yair back across the border. Get that former Mexican out of here. He's trying to become a former Mexican. Get that cocaine dealer out of here. Oh my god, what am I saying? Now he's preparing for a fight with Ilia Topuria. He might lose, but I have hope. So hopefully Bald Volk can pull through once again, because Bald Volk at featherweight yet to lose. So 9.5 out of 10 for Bald Volk. We move on to another mythical fighter. It's mentally undefeated O'Malley. So I'll give you a bit of backstory here in case you don't know. So following a loss to a cocaine dealer, he did lose his undefeated record. He was then at the time, I think 13-1, I believe it was 14-1. But turns out he didn't, and he claimed he was still undefeated. So therefore, mentally undefeated O'Malley was born. He then proceeded to execute several cans, including a greenhead circus clown and some random Brazilian, or two random Brazilians. He actually fought his wife, Julian Paiva. I don't know if you guys know, but then he eye-poked another Brazilian, resulting in a no contest. It was a win according to him, though, so that moves him up again. So he's sitting at 27-0 now? Then he fought Pt.1 despite having 0 ranked wins, and he got a splitty decision. Then he lets the midget Henry Cejudo fight for the belt before him. Then he loses. Obviously, Cejudo lost to Aljo. Then he fights Aljamain Sterling at UFC 292, and he chinned Will Smith, otherwise known as Aljamain Sterling, otherwise known as the Fake Master. And he became a champion, so pretty crazy stuff for mentally undefeated O'Malley. He basically just willed into existence that he has never lost, even though we all know it happened. Basically said the Sugar State Athletic Commission ruled it a no contest, so who are we to argue with a man that lets his wife get fucked by other dudes? Sean O'Malley, mythical fighter, he's currently preparing for a rematch with that previously mentioned cocaine dealer, so maybe he can avenge that loss, which isn't a loss according to him, and yeah, I'll give him a mythic rating of 18-0 out of 10, because that's his record. We move on to another fighter, and it's Oscar-winning Sterling. So, backstory for here. After an impressive win over Sandhagen, he challenged Pt.1 for the belt. He was getting dominated all fight, but then he gets kneed in the face because Pt.1 mistakenly thought he was fighting in Pride rules. Unlike on paper Anthony Smith, Sterling rolled around on the ground and took the DQ. In doing this, he both won an Oscar and the largest drop in fan respect ever. Then he proceeded to fluke a 3-fight title reign, beating Jan in the rematch by split decision. Then he got a fucking handicapped TJ Dillashaw with no shoulder. I had a sore shoulder, TJ Dillashaw said. I had a sore shoulder. I was sparring this big Polish bloke, and the next day I was like, what the fuck? That's very good. But anyway, so I had to go into a Connor accent there for a second. But Aljo, so he fluked a title reign, split against Jan, as I said, then a splitty against a midget coming off a 2-year layoff. Finally, his run came to an end after getting chinned by an anorexic circus clown. So, Oscar-winning Sterling, he turned an Oscar-winning performance into a 3-fight title reign. So, fair play to the guy. I'll give him a mythic rating of 8 out of 10, you know. Will Smith, congratulations. You're featured on the video. We move on to the next mythical fighter, and it's Game Plan Garbrandt. So, Cody Garbrandt, when he sticks to a game plan, is the best fighter on the planet. Bro, he cruised Cruz. Like, he out-cruised Cruz. How's that work? Say that 10 times fast. You know? He cruised Cruz. Like, that's just... What's he done? He danced rings around Cruz and made him look stupid for half the fight. Crazy. But then, since then, he's been unable to stick to a game plan. Cody, being the dumbest fucking retard that he is, repetitively gets in wars under the illusion that he has a Holloway chin. Unfortunately, he cannot absorb shots. Like, Ronnie Yaya would probably knock this guy out. Apart from a cool knockout against Rafael Assunção and then a win over Trevin Jones, Garbrandt has been getting chinned basically every fight. You know, Munoz chinned him, Dillashaw chinned him twice. Kai Kara-France chinned him, you know, in a dismal attempt to make flyweight. He got promptly murdered by a fake Maori. So yeah, it's been a rough run for Garbrandt, but the question that we all want to know is, can No-Chin Garbrandt link 2 wins together for the first time in centuries? Find out December 16th. Mythical rating for Game Plan Garbrandt, 9.5 out of 10, because that one singular performance was about as flawless as someone's looked in the octagon. We move on to another mythical fighter, and it's racially motivated Dober. This is the real one. This is the one we're talking about here. So, backstory. The beginnings of racially motivated Dober's tales date back to his Terence McKinney comeback KO win. After getting viciously rocked in the first round, he came back, broke Terence McKinney, and TKO'd him with vicious ground and pound. He then moves on to fight Rafael Alves in July at UFC 277, and despite him being Brazilian, there was enough melanin in that skin for Drew Dober to whip up the body like he was in the cotton fields. Oh my, what am I saying? Guys, don't report me. I want to make money from YouTube, please. Then he capped off a melanin-motivated rage by chinning Bobby Green in December. So, a great 2022 for Drew Dober, racially motivated Dober. Unfortunately for him, he was then matched up with a good, hardworking family man in Matt Frevola, not his initial request, which was Jalen Turner, in an attempt to finalise his conquest of Africa. So, he fought Matt Frevola, but of course he was never going to do harm to such a nice guy, such a well-respected member of the community, such a peaceful fellow. So he let Matt take the victory, and he moved on and continued his attempt at a conquest of the African race. He then gets a fight against Rick Glenn and accidentally TKOs him in the first round. He felt really bad afterwards. He said he was punching the gloves of Ricky Glenn because they were black. He didn't realise he was actually hurting a white guy. He really regrets his decision afterwards. He's going through PTSD, guys. Send support to Drew Dober. But he then, following that accidental victory, he once again called out Jalen Turner. It is the fight to make. Jalen Turner is now fighting Bobby Green. Regardless of who it is, Dober gets the winner. He can either chin Green in a rematch, or he can finalise the path of he can finalise the path through the Sahara, and he can finally claim his conquest of the African continent. So Drew Dober versus Jalen Turner is the fight to make. Mythic rating of Dober, 1776 out of 10. The year that the well-respected practice of slavery was invented in America. Oh my, why am I saying this? Anyway, we move on to another fighter. It's post-eye poke Balal is a new mythical fighter. So, following an eye poke, no contest at the hands of a Jamaican, Balal flew through the 170-pound rankings like a Boeing 767 flies through buildings. Oh my god. Ignore that. He beat not Jennifer Meyer, that's a woman. He beat Damian Meyer. Is Jennifer Meyer a woman? She looks like a dude. Anyway, he beat Damian Meyer, Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque, Sean Brady, and Gilbert Burns. So, incredibly impressive resume, but unfortunately for him, they were all dead decisions apart from a standing TKO over Sean Brady, who apparently has less resistance to taking a punch than Cody Garbrandt. But regardless, Lil Bro currently believes that he's going to get a title shot, but he's most likely going to be forced to die at the hands of Shovkat. But mythic rating for Balal, you already know what it is, as always. It's a 9/11 out of 10. We move on up to another mythical fighter, we've got Oxygenated DDP. So, Dricus du Plessis was simply an ordinary fighter for the majority of his UFC career. Fun? Of course, we love Dricus du Plessis. He was an amazing fighter. He was fun to watch. Always barn burners, great finishes, great fights. But a title threat? Unlikely. That was the narrative that was being pushed around this real African fighter. Wins over Tavares, Till, Brunson. Impressive wins, but on paper, he just looked awful in fights. Like, he always looked gassed, he always looked sloppy, and no one could see him beating a top 5 guy. Then he got nose surgery and was booked to fight Whittaker. No one gave the guy a chance, but he went out there and TKO'd the guy that's basically served as a second champion for years. He's now fighting Strickland for the belt, and also for ownership of Africa, co-ownership with Drew Dober, of course. But mythical rating for du Plessis, 9.7 out of 10. Very mythical fighter, but we haven't seen Nose du Plessis enter the octagon more than once. So just like a few other guys, it's a one-off performance, maybe. We'll see how he does against Strickland. But will Oxygenated DDP continue his rampage through the middleweight division? We move on to aforementioned Sean Strickland, or Deshaun Strickland, as we should rightly call him, if we want to be culturally appropriate. Culturally appropriate. Yeah, that. I couldn't... what am I saying? Anyway, Deshaun Strickland, he was... Sean Strickland, I should say, the beginnings. He was just your average middleweight. He said some funny shit. Winning, losing, winning, losing again, getting KO'd by Pereira, But then he becomes fully unhinged and just unleashes the power of Deshaun Strickland. He went on Joe Rogan, which was fully cooked. He beat up a Nazi, Abbas Magomedov, his former ally in the forces. Then he fought Dogbender for the belt and humiliated him. He's also more black than Adesanya. He's currently booked to fight DDP for the NMF title presented by Mike Perry. I'm not talking about nicest motherfucker. You guys can fill in that N. It's a 5 or 6 letter word depending on the last letter that you use. But a mythic rating for Deshaun Strickland, we got 4.20 out of 10 because he's a real blazer like that. He's a real African guy, Deshaun Strickland. We move on to another mythical fighter, Delby against Brazilians. We'll go through this one quick, He's undefeated against Brazilians, 5-0. He fraud-checked Bonfim. He beat up Wally Alves, beat up Zaleski dos Santos. Well, not beat up, but he won. Beat Cowboy Oliveira. He beat some other guy that's Brazilian. It's just a Danish Chad showing the favela dwellers how it's done. Burns and Luque stand no chance. He's coming for them. Mythic rating 7.7 out of 10 for Delby. We move on to another fighter. It's Alimony Andrade. This is a recently apparent mythical fighter. Following a 3-fight loss streak, Andrade was in hot water going into a fight with Mackenzie Dern. She revealed in the build-up to the fight that the money from this fight's going to her ex as alimony payments. Divorced Dern was also her dangerous competitor, but Alimony Andrade pulled through with a win more dominant than her bedroom performances, and she got the win and bonus. 50k right to her ex-girlfriend, Mythic rating 6 out of 10 for Alimony Andrade. We move on to another fighter. It's first round Hamza. So, this guy is an absolute menace in the first round. He's unstoppable. He's a force of destruction in round 1. Potentially the best fighter ever. That could be overstating it, could be understating it. This guy in the first round has yet to look bad in any way. He's yet to face adversity in round 1 of a fight. But out of 13 wins, 8 of them have come in the first round, and even the decision wins is where the first round is the most dominant. He 10-8'd Usman in the first round, for example. He dropped Burns in the first round as well. Holland, the Leech, Ikram, and even the GOAT, GM3, are just some of the names that couldn't stand up to the pressure of Hamza Chimaev in the first round. The 5-minute force that he is. I'm a 5-minute force too in the bedroom, but apparently that's an issue. But all it took was a former lightweight and short notice replacement with the mobility of Matt Hughes to get out of the first round and make Chimaev look kind of mid, Gilbert Burns, he's a pretty small guy, a former lightweight. Kamaru Usman, with his cobblestone knees, as Lucas Tracy will say, got the mobility of Matt Hughes and still made Hamza look pretty average in the second and third. But a mythic rating for Hamza Chimaev, I'll give him 1 round out of 10 as a mythical rating for Hamza. The next fighter, we've got 2020 Holland. So, This guy, Kevin Holland, you already know him. He's a fan favourite. He's a great guy. You know, he's a great fighter. What have I got? What have I done there? I forgot what accent I was going to do. But regardless, Kevin Holland, great fighter. After a submission loss to Brendan Allen, Holland entered 2020 with a mission in mind. To fight every fucking month. He just wanted to be active. So, unfortunately, he missed the first 4 months of the year. And he made his first appearance in May, and he finished Fluffy Hernandez inside a minute, which is actually a great win if you think about that. So Hernandez is doing really well recently, so that's a good win. But then, he gained custody of Joaquin Buckley in August. He then got another decision win a month later. Then he got a slam TKO against some fucking autistic looking bloke. Then he finished off the year by gaining the power of the Lord and finishing Jacare Souza with strikes off his back. He unfortunately was not able to keep the run going into 2021. He was promptly held down and controlled by Blonde Brunson, hint hint for a future fighter, for 25 minutes. He might not be in this video, I don't know. Mythic rating, 20 out of 10 for Kevin Holland. We move on to another fighter. We got Kamaru Usman with knees / 2021 Usman is the prime of his career. So, Kamaru Usman, we all know, he won the belt with a dominant performance over Tyron Woodley, and a lot of fans were hailing him as a potential long-reigning champion. The guy that could overtake GSP. We all know these talks happened. Don't act like they didn't. And as stupid as they were, they happened. Regardless, he then went to war with Colby Covington, broke his jaw, and then secured a late finish in the 5th round. Controversial stoppage or not, that's what happened. Then, he beat Masvidal on short notice during COVID time. But then he entered his best year. 2021 was the peak of Kamaru Usman. He started off in February against Gilbert Burns, a guy who many people considered his nightmare matchup, and he finished him in the 3rd round, I want to say. TKO'd him with jabs. He was just pumping a jab down his throat, kind of like men pump jabs down Ian Gary's wife's throat, or pump cocks, I'm not sure. But regardless, he then turned around 2 months later and put, the 6 days notice talk to bed by doing exactly that to Masvidal, putting him to bed. Shut that guy up. Then, he capped off 2021 at the Garden by going 2-0 in the record books against Chaos Covington himself and ended that rivalry as much as you can do with 2 victories. Unfortunately, this was the last time we saw, prime Usman. His knee's now reaching breaking point. Apart from 3 dominant rounds in a KO loss to the now reigning champion, he's now lost his last 3 fights and is looking to hang the gloves up soon. Kamaru Usman, the CEO of EPO, you will be missed. Mythic rating of EPO out of 10 for this mythical fighter. We move on to the final mythical fighter, and it's Pictogram Jon Jones, or Picogram. So, the TMZ star himself famously popped for estrogen blockers leading up to the DC rematch at UFC 200, which was promptly cancelled. Can't believe he got popped for estrogen blockers, bro was doing it easy, bro was going some tits, going some D cups, But, he then returned a year later and head kick KO'd a fat man inside 3 rounds, and finished his biggest rival, but also popped soon after for a pre-fight urine sample. That's tough. As Colby Covington said, he pissed hot. But he finally then gets his rematch down the line with Alexander Gustafsson, which was moved to a different location, very interestingly, which was due to the commission. One of the commissions that it was originally going to be in, I think it was Nevada, were not going to sanction him due to having pulsating effect, or as he would say, pictograms of the metabolite that he popped for against DC. So they wouldn't let him fight, so they got the fight moved. He then promptly dominated Gustafsson. He also, as I said, KO'd or TKO'd DC in the rematch in 2 fights which were a lot tougher the first time around. But Pictogram Jon Jones, he runs through these fools. So crazy stuff from him. But then, coincidentally, his next fights, in which he didn't pop against Thiago Moises and Dominic Reyes. I know he beat Anthony Smith, but that doesn't count. On paper, Smith wins that. But his next fights where he didn't pop against Santos and Reyes were some of his least impressive. So, without a doubt, Pictogram Jones, a 10 out of 10 mythical fighter, a true beast in the octagon, much like a beast outside the cage, much like a beast, in the domestic setting. But Jon Jones is a mythical fighter, Pictogram Jones, 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who your favorite mythical fighters are in the comments. Do that, otherwise Yoel Romero will see you soon, boy. Next, also, subscribe, otherwise Balal's going to breathe on your neck for 25 minutes, and you don't want that to happen. Comment, otherwise Anthony Smith's going to fight you on paper. Like the video, share, otherwise you have the relationship status of Sean O'Malley and Ian Gary. And then follow my Instagram, LeftLane MMA, otherwise Jon Jones is going to eye poke, headbutt, and oblique kick you while on pictograms. See you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.